So if you're consistent in that belief, then you should look at that video and react to it the exact same way that you would react to a different video of a man, let's say a smaller man, walks up to Dana White, slaps him in the face, and then
that's not what happened though, is it? Let's see. If you're not sure, if you're not aware, Dana White is the I guess he'd be CEO of the UFC. So he's, you know, he's the Vince McMahon of the UFC. He's the whoever the fuck owns the NBA and whoever owns the whatever. But he's the guy for the UFC. And I guess this was somebody filmed him at what I assume is Vegas. UFC spends a lot of time in Vegas. Let's watch this first, and then we'll go watch Matt's thing, because I want to get a good look at all of this. Oh, nope, it's not muted. We're gonna mute you because I don't care about the sound. I don't need to hear the like super fucking loud in my ears. All right, we're muted. We're good. We're good. Okay. All right. So, wish I could slow this down actually. All right. Okay, so they're holding hands. She's like saying something. God damn, is it fucking hard to see anything? Looks like she's upset about something. Ooh, okay. Oh, the video paused itself. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. Ooh, okay. Makes sense. Then what happens? Oh, okay, and then they kind of get into the classic school pushing and shoving and stuff. Some guy, it looks like, comes over here. All right, yeah, looks like they get separated. I think. What is happening? Looks like somebody is touching his bald ass head. No, I don't need to see the action slowed down. What? Okay, it looks like got some people hanging out. I don't think he's being attacked right now. This doesn't look like the body language of somebody being attacked. Okay, so okay. All right. So let's do our version of kind of going over this, and then let's see what I already saw a bit of Matt's take. So okay. So they're probably had, you know, it seems like, you know, had a little conversation. They're doing a thing. We have a jump cut here, which makes me think, okay, there was some kind of disagreement. She's obviously got her hands here, kind of, you know, in the full hands over face crying position, clearly upset about something. He kind of comes back. She's not expecting him to come back. They have some conversation. He tries to kind of grab her wrist and do all that. She gives him like a pretty, you know, kind of, you know, if we're rating this, if we're doing a little bit of moist critical here, not a lot of follow through, just you know, like a, you know, just a little bit, just a bah, like a huh, you know, like, you know, nothing too crazy so far. I keep forgetting that the fucking video pauses on its own. Okay, Dana posts, delivers with what seems like a pretty, you know, a comparable strike. Granted, coming from somebody who's much larger, much stronger. Right. Okay. So far, you know. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Right. And then the second strike comes. So seems like let's kind of take a look at here. Dana White's wife. Stop it. No, I knew Pitbull would be playing. I don't actually know if that's Pitbull. Dana White's wife, God, say that 3 times fast, slaps him, to which he responds by rightfully slapping her back. Rightfully is a word, okay. It isn't even slightly outrageous. If you truly believe in equality for women and men, you wouldn't bat an eyelid looking at this video. Women do not get a free pass to beat men. So this is a cringe take, mainly because this is one of those. Let's break this down sentence by sentence. Dana White's wife. God, that was hard. Dana White's wife slaps him, to which he responds by rightfully. Is assault a positive, a good, a legal response to someone striking you? No, it's not. It's simply not. Now, the thing that this person also wants to leave out, which I think is important, is if you noticed in the video, and we'll go back and we'll kind of take a look here. Holy shit, that's right. I turned this on just to kind of reduce the light, but let's go back. Shut up. Okay. So, if you want to notice here, they're going about their business. They're kind of having a conversation. He grabs her wrist, right? This is the, I'm going to control you for a moment. You're going to come with me. Like, that's what this is. Because he's clearly, so let's be clear. He put his hands on her first. Let's establish that. Now, is the slap good? No, it's not. Nobody, women or men, should be responding to any, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? Not undangerous. That's not really a word. Any benign contact that should not be responded to with intentful harm. Now, I don't think Dana White's wife was intending harm here. This was a defensive strike after what clearly they had some kind of tough conversation that she was upset by. With him approaching her in a maybe aggressive way. We can't hear what he's saying, but he obviously grabs her and wants her to stay where she is so they can have a conversation. She does not. She slaps him in an attempt to kind of shock him out of releasing her so that she can go about whatever she's doing. Now, I don't agree. She shouldn't have slapped him. Dana also shouldn't have grabbed her and shouldn't have tried to control her positioning at that moment. He heard the UFC bell and went for a wrist lock way too early here. So, looking at this, and she hits him. He returns with what looks like a pretty comparable strike, but Dana White's a pretty big guy. You can expect that strike was probably more significant than her on him. Because let's be honest here. Let's look at the impact. Since this person clearly has an interest in making these equal, does that look very impactful? Now, on the other hand, okay. Yeah, he smacks her, pulls her, like, as she's reacting, pulls her back up, strikes again. That is why Dana White is getting a lot of heat. Because the excessive force that he's shown, especially after that return strike, is already disqualifying. I have a certain leniency when it comes to married folks kind of being, not assaulting each other, but certainly coming to disagreements and arguing, right? And the minute someone puts their hands on each other, or there's some kind of, any kind of strike of any kind, anything like that, I believe it is in both parties' responsibility to fairly assess their situation. I think it's unfair to try and say, actually, let me bring up that tweet really quickly again. I think it's unfair to try and pretend that Dana White was in any kind of danger or in any kind of situation where he not only needed to respond with what he would perceive as equal force, or really respond in anything that wasn't, what's the word? That wasn't using your fucking words. Now, also, so let's go back to this tweet really quickly, because this is also going to be indicative of later. It isn't even slightly outrageous. I would say it's slightly outrageous. This was not a beating on the level that we saw. I believe it was like a football player a couple years ago, where like homeboy mauled his fucking girlfriend or wife. I don't remember. I don't remember the deep details, but I do remember it was like elevator footage. It was pretty bad. But yeah, when we're talking about rightfully is the well, you hit me, I get to hit you. Which, is that how the world works? Is that how we as a society have decided to respond to violence with more violence? This this is unhelpful. This kind of mindset is unhelpful and only leads to more violence. This kind of perspective is one of somebody who doesn't feel big enough to have their ego be damaged, because that's what was damaged by Dana White's wife. She damaged his ego in public, because she damn sure didn't damage his jaw, and she damn sure didn't damage his skull. He's not gonna have CTE after that. What he's gonna have is a damaged ego, and he responded in the only way that he knew how, which was to return that embarrassment, to then exert his force on another person. If that was a man who did that, it'd be the same conversation. The only difference is he would be attempting to exert his force in a situation where he wanted to prove he was the dominant member. He was the dominant player on that board. And in this case, he knew at any point he could dominate that woman. And he took an opportunity to remind her of that in public. Now, let's get on to this next little bit. If you truly believe in equality for men and women. So, this is brain damage. Anybody who believes who this person is talking to are people who believe that women and men should be able to vote, should be able to live equal lives. And this guy says, you want women to vote? Huh. Like, what? Is that, well, if you think women should be allowed to vote, then women and men should be able to just assault each other at will. And funnily enough, men will be the actual victors of those assaults. So it dog shit brain damage going on right here. You wouldn't bat an eyelid looking at the video. Funny, because I do believe in equality for men and women. The equality to, fun fact, not be assaulted. How about that? How about we all come together as a group and say, hey, maybe nobody assault each other. And if you are assaulted, maybe let's kind of contextually look at the scenario. Let's look at the situation. Let's also take into account that, if you're not really big enough, because understand this is also machismo at the end of the day. If you're not big enough to allow yourself, because again, we have to remember this, Dana White's not in danger here. Dana White's not defending himself from physical harm. He's defending himself from egotistical harm. And if you're not big enough to put that aside, then at least in my opinion, it's a bit cringe to a degree. You wouldn't bat an eyelid. Women don't get a free pass to beat men. So let's kind of think about that. Dana White's wife strikes him after he grabs her wrist when she wants to get away from him. That, I think, was at least mildly obvious from the footage. She's trying to leave, and he grabs her wrist in an attempt to keep her where she was. She then strikes him in hopes that will shock him enough that she can release herself and leaves. And what does he do? He strikes her twice. And this guy, this dipshit, gets on Twitter and goes, women do not get a free pass to beat men. You see how this is kind of making two things equal where there isn't an equality? How they try to pass off the equality of men beating women because they go, oh, well, if we live in a world where women can beat men, then now we get to be the victims, and now look at that, we're victims of egotistical assault. We get to physically assault women. That's the danger of this tweet. This tweet is fucking dog shit and mostly just fucking stupid. I don't really have, at the end of the day, what we want for society is people to not assault each other. We do not want women to believe that they can assault men, but we also do not want men to believe that they get to do likewise. It can't be men get to retributively, I don't know if that's a word, get to engage in retribution, and women don't get to do the same. That's not a thing. That's not good for society. We all need to come to an understanding that, guess what? Both people in this case, especially this case, are in the wrong. Both people hit each other. But to boil this down to women in America these days are way too comfortable with assaulting men, and Dana White was standing up for all men everywhere, but all not nonsense, utter nonsense, coward activity, absolute utter coward activity. But we have this person on Twitter. Let's take a look at what somebody with a platform with 2 million subscribers, woof, thinks about this.
Yahoo Sports. UFC president Dana White admits to slapping his wife on New Year's Eve.
Cool.
Now, this is the story that's gotten a lot of attention. Dana White slaps his wife.
Twice.
Beat his wife, as some on social media have put it. Lots of outrage
He definitely hit her twice.
About this. Lots of claims that White is a domestic abuser. Lots of condemnation, etc. Before we talk about it, let's check the video. Here it is.
That's a bit far. Ooh, funny that they didn't want to show the interaction beforehand, Matt. Isn't that convenient?
Okay. So there it is.
I hope I don't.
So his wife slaps him. He slaps her
clapped
back,
up for that.
and all the headlines saying Dana White slapped his wife could just as well say Dana White's wife slaps Dana White. But
Sure.
we know why they don't. Here's what I'll.
Well, I think it's kind of obvious. Dana White responded. Again, we watched the video. Well, we watched the unedited video where he clearly tries to keep her in place. And she responds by slapping him. And then he proceeds to slap her twice. So I don't know, man. This sounds like 3 strikes versus 1 strike, you know?
I'll say about this. You know, the position most people, especially on the left,
Right? That's me.
have on this, condemning Dana White. And this maybe this is the theme we're talking about today. People who have incoherent positions. Well,
I wouldn't say I condemn Dana White, but I definitely do think that that definitely seemed like a weak man's response. I'll say it. Dana White is a weak man for responding in that fashion. He is a weak, bitch, bald baby boy. I'm okay with saying that. I'll fight Dana White. I don't give a shit. Won't fight fair, but
the position of most of these people, again, particularly on the left, it's an incoherent position. Because
get on with it, man. Tell me my
that
position.
Men and women are entirely equal.
Holy
There's no
shit.
difference between the two. In fact,
Holy shit. Okay. I didn't realize he was going to say literally the exact same thing that Twitter person said. Okay, that's fair.
the categories don't even exist according to you. They don't even, like, these words don't even mean anything, if that's what you believe.
That's not the belief. Go, one second.
The categories don't even exist according to you. They don't even.
That's not true. The argument from the left is not that the categories don't exist. It's that the categories are social constructs and can change at any point. The argument from the left is that men and women as gender categories are fluid, not static. And also kind of meaningless, because they are. I mean, they're meaningless like a lot of things are meaningless. Laws aren't real. They're not real. They're social contracts that we've created to build positive, functioning societies. That's marriage. Not real. Not real. You're not in a real, that's not a real thing. It is a social construct that we've created as people forming societies.
Like these words don't even mean anything, if that's what you believe, which every person on the left just about pretends to believe. Then
not this guy. I believe they exist and that they're fluid.
For condemning for any serious condemnation of Dana White, because then you have one individual who was slapped by another individual, and that individual slapped back. So yeah, you could blame him and say, be the bigger man, be more mature.
Wait, what is this? What is this? Matt, we're both men here. Were we not taught that you don't hit women because hitting, well, first of all, hitting anybody in any kind of offensive fashion unwarranted is weakness. You're a weak little bitch baby bald boy. The fuck? I've only struck one person in my life, and it was out of defense. That's it. It's the only time I've ever had to use my mitts, my fists to solve a problem. Because I'm not a fucking small, not a small person. I mean, I am. I'm only 5'5", but not in that way. I'm big. I'm big brained. I'm big energy. Solve problems with your words like a fucking adult. And also, again, we're also playing with the dynamics here. Matt wants to make it as like, oh, two individuals. You're right. Two individuals got into a scuffle. The difference is one individual wasn't really threatening the other person. One individual was trying to separate themselves from the other. And in defense, slapped the other person. It's funny how if you leave out that initial detail, this does look like just, as far as Matt Walsh could tell it, two people just walked up to you and went, wha-pa, and the other one went, wha-pa, and that was it. We watched the video. We watched her walk away. Obviously, they were separated. He comes back. She tries to leave. He grabs her. She slaps him to get away, and he slaps her twice. You tell me what that sounds like.
Or whatever, but it's to go beyond that just doesn't make any sense. So if you're consistent in that belief, then you should look at that video and react to it the exact same way that you would react to a different video of a man, let's say a smaller man, walks up to Dana White, slaps him in the face, and then
that's not what happened though, is it? Dana White approached her, isn't it? If a small dude is just hanging out, Dana White comes, talks to him. Dude's like, I don't really want to talk to you right now. Dana White grabs them. They're going to, you've engaged in contacting them. They're going to respond. The fuck? Again, Matt I mean, let's be honest. He edited out the initial clips of their conversation and of his approach. They jumped straight to, they didn't even let you build up to the slap. They just went straight for, and go. And they started with that. So that should tell you already, if you're a viewer of Matt Walsh, if you somehow stumbled into this, I want you to think about why they didn't show you the setup for that. Why Matt and his team were not interested in showing you what led to that interaction. And why they only showed you in a vacuum the actual interaction. Like the interesting part of the interaction, I should say. So keep that in mind.
Dana White slaps that man back. If you believe that men and women are entirely equal, then you should react to the one of him and his wife the same way you'd react to that. And how would you react? How would anyone react?
Also, have you guys ever seen that video? There's a, what is it? I want to say might be Jubilee. It might be Jubilee, but it's a YouTube video, and it's like men and women kind of just sitting in in a random ass room, and they slap the shit out of each other. They just sit down and go, wham. And some people take it easy on people. Some people just fucking go in for it. And do you want to know why that video isn't, what's the word? Isn't transgressive? Why it's not why you're not thrown off by it? It's a video. It's a whole video. There's dudes. There are men who are bigger than the women who sit down. They talk for a second and they just fucking full maybe not full force, but they slap each other back and forth, right? And the reason why it's not what's the word, it's not controversial, it doesn't evoke after the first time or so, maybe the second or third, it doesn't evoke much of a response to you, is mainly because there's no intent behind it. Men and women scuffling, men and women play sports together. There are women who played. There was a girl who played football on our high school football team, and she got tackled like the guys. She tackled like the guys. All the rest of this stuff. Women and men getting into scuffles in an equal setting. No problem here, man. Intergender wrestling is a thing. I believe in there's a promotion in Japan called DDT. They have intergender titles and intergender tag teams. There's nothing inherently wrong with contact sports with that are co-ed or co-ed. Yeah. Mixed men and women. Where the problem lies is when it is men exerting physical dominating force over women in a context that is unnecessary. Like, the entire Johnny Depp story became a thing and became a rallying cry for men because Johnny Depp was being assaulted by somebody and defending himself. Now, whether Johnny Depp was smaller than Amber Heard or larger than Amber Heard, if he's being assaulted, then, you know, you do what you got to do. I'm not super familiar with the story. This is just what people are rallying around. But, like, that is the bias people have against men assaulting women. Because traditionally, in an uncontrolled setting, it is men exerting force, exerting dominance over women. And most of the time, it's unnecessary. You see stuff like this from guys like Dana White. Was he in danger? Did he need to do any of that? No, he wanted to do that because that was the thing he wanted to do in that moment. He wanted to shut down her ability to challenge him. He wanted to exert that power over him, his physical advantage over her, to serve his ego. That's the critique. Not, men shouldn't be hitting women. Women shouldn't be hitting men. There are women who are jacked to the gills, bigger than me. And if they whoop my ass, I'd be saying, they whoop my ass. I'd be like, hey, you shouldn't be kicking people's asses. Like, even if you're bigger than even if you're a woman, you're bigger than a man, you shouldn't be assaulting men either. People exerting unnecessary force on others is bad. I don't get why this is a hard concept for Matt. I mean, I get it. He's a fascist. In his mind, in his worldview, to him, might makes right. If you've ever heard that phrase before. It's the idea that if you're strong, if you're powerful, you have a right to dominate others simply based on the fact that you can dominate others. It's damaging and it's bad. It creates a society of people who are ready, willing, and able to enact violence on each other. It's not good. It's not good. I shouldn't have to say that. It's not good. Not good. Might makes right is bullshit. It's for people who have small minds and an inability to communicate.
Back to a video of a smaller man walking up to Dana White, slapping him in the face, getting slapped back. Almost every single now there might be a few people who say, be more mature. But
why do you think we have weight classes in
would
UFC?
Respond by saying, well, don't go up and slap Dana White. I mean, you got slapped back because you slapped him. If he's a bigger guy, you shouldn't be doing that. FAFO, right? F around and find out. That's what everybody would be. That's what every single person would be saying.
Yes. I love this because there's also a lot of this on there's a subreddit called there was an attempt. It's a fun subreddit. It's usually people trying to do something and completely failing at it, which sometimes is funny, but sometimes the subreddit, in its most uncomfortable moments to me, starts to turn into let's watch videos of women giving men enough of a reason, at the very least just barely a socially acceptable reason to assault a woman. But usually the part that I always find gross is those videos start with, okay, girl like hits a dude in the back of the head or like hits him a couple times. He might hit her. She falls backwards. They leave it at that. At the end of the day, you're defending yourself. But what most of these videos end up turning into is girl hits the dude one or two times and dude lets off some kind of fucking Tekken juggling combo on them. After it's very clear, after the first or second strike, that there is no more danger posed to them. And it's this desire to watch men, at least the way I see it, it is this desire that some men seem to have where they want to see men exert force onto women. Maybe because people who watch that stuff don't get to do that, which really shouldn't be something you aspire to. But it certainly isn't, it's not something that I would say is is good and doesn't speak well of the people watching it. It's I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like people getting assaulted. It's sometimes you see videos where people are acting like assholes and they fuck around, they find out something happens. But it's another case when it's clearly somebody overexerting their power. There is a line that you cross. And it's a very thin line. Because at the end of the day, you're engaging in assault. One return punch that I think most people would say that's fair can turn quickly into you've gone too far when you're just letting off a flurry. So let's finish this up, but
we all know that. So to heap any sort of extra condemnation on Dana White, that the only way to do that, the only way to condemn him beyond how you would condemn him if he slapped another man who slapped him first, which is you wouldn't condemn him hardly at all in that case, the only way to do it is on the grounds of chivalry. It's on the grounds of like a recognition that men and women are not equal. And that there are codes of...
So this is also the thing. You don't need an understanding of men and women are... You don't need any of that. In my high school, when we went to high school, there was a situation where a very large football player fucking mauled one of the students who's much, much smaller than him in like the cafeteria line. Now, the person, I wasn't present for this. I was in the same cafeteria room, but I didn't see the initial spark to this. But from what it was described to me, it was described to me that the smaller person was, egging on this person or kind of, needling them a bit. And that got under their skin and they took it way too far. They had to be separated by multiple people, but it wasn't in the case of like, we need to get these two away from each other. It was this dude is mauling this person. And regardless of how much needling that person did, regardless of how much fucking around they did, the response was disproportionate. What we as leftists, and what me specifically, I'll speak for myself here actually, what I denounce is the disproportionate response to violence from any group. You don't need it for men versus women. You don't need it for women versus women. You don't need it for men versus men. You just need it across the board. People, what's the old saying? With great power comes great responsibility. That's true. I know. It sounds a bit cliche. It sounds childish, maybe naive, possibly, but that's true. And more people need to live by that creed. And I mean it. I mean it 100%. If you have the ability to end a fight, don't take it any farther. You shouldn't take it farther. Plain and simple. You don't need men. You don't need women in the equation. You just need responsibility and an understanding of the position you're in.
Chivalry and conduct that men should abide by. That men should treat women differently from how they treat men. And women should treat men differently from how they treat other women. That is the only basis upon which you can coherently condemn Dana White here. But most people doing the condemnation, they don't accept that basis. And so it's all incoherent. Which, by the way, and I'm a believer in chivalry.
Bet you are.
But does chivalry lead to the conclusion that...
Matt Walsh, also a believer that by the time you're 16, you're ready for pregnancy. It's also a Matt Walsh take.
It's never acceptable under any circumstance for a man to strike a woman? Well, of course not. I mean, there could certainly be and have been conceivable scenarios where self-defense is necessary. Like you're not called upon as a man to just be beaten silly. Naturally. And to not defend yourself at all because the person doing it is a woman.
I will say, there are women, there are feminists who think that. There are feminists who absolutely hate men enough to the point that they would make that argument. They're also wrong.
It's absurd. But as kind of a general principle, if you don't subscribe to the leftist notion that the sexes are equal, then you see that they're unequal, and you think, well, men should respond in situations differently to women than they respond to men. And that'll do.
Once again, so let's remind everybody, you don't need gender in any of this. It's simply those with more power, those with an ability to create more harm, have a responsibility to cut that harm off once they are in a safe position. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. You know the thing. You know the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.